Today we're going to talk about this really cool musical notation system called Swarpia. It's a fascinating mix of old tradition and new tech that might just change the game for musicians, especially when they're under pressure. Okay, picture this. You're at a huge concert, the crowd is absolutely electric, and right in the middle of the set, the lead singer's voice starts to give out. They turn to the band and whisper, "We need to drop the key for the next song." Now, for you in the audience, it's no big deal, but for the musicians on stage staring at their sheet music, that one little request can cause a full-blown panic. And that, right there, is what we'll call the live concert problem. Let's dive into why changing a song's key on the fly is such a total nightmare for musicians who are using standard, everyday notation. So, in the sheet music that most of us are used to seeing, Western staff notation, every note has a specific fixed home. Its pitch is locked to its position on those lines and spaces. A C is always a C. A G is always a G. There's no wiggle room, it is absolute. But here's where it gets tricky. Because every note's position is fixed, changing the key means every single note has to move. The musicians have to try and transpose it all in their heads right there on the spot, which is, let's be honest, incredibly difficult under the glare of stage lights. The only other real option is to rewrite the entire score, and you just can't do that in the middle of a live show. But what if there was another way to do things? Let's take a look at a completely different system that handles this problem beautifully: Indian classical notation. On this slide, you can really see the two different mindsets. On one hand, you've got staff notation with its absolute pitch. Everything is fixed. But then you have the Indian system, which uses relative pitch. Its notes, you've probably heard them, sa, re, ga. They don't represent a fixed tone. Instead, they represent a step within a scale. So when the key changes, sa is still sa. The whole scale just shifts up or down. It's super flexible, but, and this is a big but, it doesn't have a standard way to show you how long to hold each note. So you're stuck, right? You've got this choice between two worlds. One system gives you perfect, precise timing, but is super rigid when it comes to changing keys. The other is amazingly flexible with keys, but can be pretty vague about the rhythm. It feels like you have to pick one, but what if you didn't have to choose? What if you could get the best of both? Well, this is exactly where Swarpia comes into the picture. It's a brand new system designed to do just that, to create a musical language that is both incredibly precise and wonderfully flexible. At its core, Swarpia is this brilliant marriage of two musical traditions. It's a new font and notation style that takes those flexible Indian note names, sa, re, ga, and merges them with the clear, easy-to-read timing symbols from Western music.
And the logic behind it is just so simple and elegant. It works like this. First, you take a relative Indian note, let's say sa. Then, you decide how long you want it to be played, maybe for 2 beats, making it a half note. And finally, the Swarpia font just combines the two into one single, totally intuitive symbol. It's that easy.
And here you can see what it actually looks like. The Indian note name, like sa, is literally built into the shape of the Western timing symbols for a whole note, half note, and quarter note. So the name tells you the note's place in the scale, and the shape tells you exactly how long to hold it. It's just so clear.
Okay, let's cut that in half. Now we've got the half note. That's 2 beats. And this is where it gets really clever. You know how a Western half note has that hollow head and a stem? Well, in Swarpia, the note name itself stretches down to become the stem, and then you just pop that hollow circle at the bottom. It's so smart because it looks instantly familiar. All right, on to the quarter note. This is like the heartbeat of most music, right? Just one beat, the basic pulse. And here's where you really see the beautiful logic of this system. In Western music, how do you go from a half note to a quarter note? You just fill in the circle. Well, Swarpia does the exact same thing. You take that half note symbol we just saw and you shade in the little circle at the bottom. Bam, quarter note. Okay, let's speed things up a bit. The 8th note. This one gets half a beat, so you get 2 of these for every 1 quarter note. And this is maybe my favorite part. It's so streamlined. A Western 8th note has that little flag on the stem, right? Well, Prashant Bhatte realized the flag is the key piece of information. So for a Swarpia 8th note, you just put a single line right over the top of the note name. That's it. No stem, no circle, just the line. So efficient. And even faster,
the 16th note. We're talking 4 of these crammed into a single beat. Very fast.
And you can probably guess what's coming next because the logic is just perfect. A Western 16th note has 2 of those little flags. So what does a Swarpia 16th note have? You got it, 2 lines over the top. 1 flag equals 1 line, 2 flags equal 2 lines. It just makes so much sense.
So who is the musical genius behind this incredibly clever solution? Let's meet the inventor of Swarpia. This is Mr. Prashant Bhate. You can tell right away that he didn't create this just as a theory. He built it as a real, practical tool for working musicians like him. Who also goes by Pia, is a musician from Maharashtra, India. And this whole idea for Swarpia came directly from his own frustrations with the limits of the old ways of writing music. And for him, this isn't just some academic puzzle. I mean, look at this list. The man is a true multi-instrumentalist. He's just as comfortable playing Western instruments like the piano and the saxophone as he is with Indian classics like the sitar and harmonium. It's that deep, first-hand knowledge of both musical worlds that gave him the perfect perspective to build a bridge between them. Okay, so what's the big picture here? Is Swarpia just a clever new font? Or could this actually be the beginning of a whole new musical language? Well, Swarpia really does have the potential to be a kind of universal translator for music. It creates a common ground where a classically trained Western musician can pick up a piece of Indian music and instantly understand it, and vice versa. It's a seriously powerful tool for bringing musicians together across different cultures. And that brings us right back to our band on stage. With a score written in Swarpia, that last-minute key change, not a problem anymore. The notation is flexible enough for the shift, and the timing is crystal clear for everyone in the band. And what's the result? A flawless performance and a very happy crowd. You know, it's just a powerful reminder that the biggest innovations don't always come from some super complex new technology. Sometimes the most revolutionary ideas are born from simple, elegant design. Swarpia is such a beautiful example of that. A tiny change that could have a massive impact. Could one font really change the universal language of music? Only time will tell, but man, that is an exciting future to think about.